In this video, I'm going to be showcasing for you my version of Ruby Amethyst Control. This is the deck I've actually purchased cards for in real life and am building for competitive play. And at first I thought it was maybe more of a budget version because I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to really dish out the money for Maleficents at like $70 Canadian. So I'm like, I'm going to go with Ursula's instead because I know Ursula is actually still a very good card. And honestly, I think Ursula might even be better than Maleficent. And the reason for that is because late game, like past turn 5, 6, 7, you have total control of the match. You really don't even need the Maleficent. The only nice thing about Maleficent is that the fact it's inkable, and as you can see in this video, I have 2 Ursulas in my hand and they're not inkable. That's the only downside. But the Ursula as a card to replace itself and quest for 3 with 8 toughness is actually insane. So in this video we are going up, or in this match we're going up against Amber Steel, which is a very popular deck type, and the Amber Emerald that I posted a few videos ago is also very popular. Unfortunately, I make a huge misplay here throwing my board into a shifted Tinkerbell. Now they're going to be able to wipe my whole board, and you know, it's 5 cards on their end, 5 cards on my end, and they have an established board presence. So this is a bit of a problem because we're still early game. But the problem with this Amber Steel deck is that I really do think that it doesn't ramp up fast enough in terms of questing power or control to keep pace with the Ruby Amethyst. So you should be beating this deck if you do face it. And you can see here, yeah, they're trying to get card advantage with the Aerial, and it's a very good card, but thankfully they don't hit a song off of it, and we top deck the Be Prepared. Now, at this point, because I have no other inkable cards, and you know, you only run like 16 uninkables or something, or 18 uninkables, which is still a lot out of 62 cards, but we have to start inking our friends on the other side, and we have to start taking out the opponent's board here. So they're going to opt to play another Aerial, and they miss off of that again, which is actually good, and they're overcommitting on their board here with the hook, and now they're just going to quest for 1 and pass. So at this point I'm like, okay, I'm going to bank on the fact that I can draw another inkable card and just be prepared the whole board. So I just quest with the Elsa and leave it there because I want the opponent to overcommit a little bit on the board. They are smart though. They're not going to play their last card. They're on 7 lore. They're going to quest for 2 more and then just pass it over to me. But at this point I'm like, perfect. At 7 ink, this is why this deck is also powerful. Maleficent costs 9, right? Ursula does cost 7, so this is another benefit. I can be prepared, or I can Ursula and then be prepared right next turn if I sing be prepared with Ursula. And like at 7 ink, I can just play all of my boss monsters, Aladdin's, Ursula's, the Maui's for challenging. It's just insane to be prepared to clear out the board. So at this point, the Tinkerbell that the opponent summons is not really a threat to me. So I'm just going to opt to put some board presence on with the Ursula, and this big body is threatening a lot. The opponent does play a Stitch though, and I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a problem. But I think the Tinkerbell is more of a problem if I leave it on board. So I'm going to opt here to Dragonfire the Tinkerbell instead of the Stitch and say, okay, go ahead and quest with Stitch, because they both have 5 defense and the Tinkerbell has 4 attack, right? So I'm like, yeah, let me just take that out because the Stitch won't really be threatening it. Unfortunately though, the opponent does have the discard 2, and I'm like, oh, that really hurts because now I don't have enough attack power on board to deal with the Stitch, which means they're going to be able to quest for 6 with it. So they're going to go up to 14, but I do top deck the Rafiki, which is insane. So we're going to obviously summon the Rafiki, crash it into the Stitch, and then take it out with Ursula. And this is why Ursula is so good. She can like finish off 2 to 3 characters and still be on the board threatening for 3 lore. Unfortunately, this game did, like, the server shut down. I thought the opponent rage quit or something, but I went over to the Discord and they said no, everyone's game disconnected. So I lost points for it because I had to quit the game. You can see that it was flashing 0 at the end there, but it is what it is. We jump into another match like a couple hours later and the servers are back up, and once again we are going up against an Amber variant deck. Now we start off pretty strong here with the bird into the Ursula's Cauldron. The opponent has Lilo, but the fact that they inked Simba means that they have another one, right? Yeah, sure enough they do. And I'm like, okay, this is a little tough. I realized that after this match I didn't put Gastons in my deck, and I'm like, oh, that's the card that's missing. So by the way, if you want this deck list with the Gastons in it, as it should be, because Gaston deals with Simba, make sure you leave a like on this video. If it gets to 50 likes, I will make the video for the deck list. And like I said, this is a budget deck. I paid $100 and maybe $50 Canadian, and I put this deck together. It's got all the staples, all the power cards, and again, you're going to see how it can easily just power through decks. So the opponent is on a pretty decent established board, but with the Ursula's Cauldron and the draw power that we generate with this deck, you're going to see like just insane amounts of control. So we got the Rafiki to take out the Simba, which is great. Now the Maleficent can deal with the Stitch, the Lilo, and now they're only left with the Stitch. and we still have both of our bodies on board. So the opponent is going to be on 3 cards if they play a card here, and they overlay okay for the Stitch. That's pretty good, and probably going to quest for 3. No, they pass. Interesting, right? Okay, so we're going to use Ursula's Cauldron, and I think we opted to take the 3-drop Aladdin there. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, we're at 5 ink. This is pretty much my territory now. I should have total control of the game. So we Dragonfire the Stitch, and we pass. The opponent, yeah, is basically their only hope is to top deck enough of the 3 questers that I just can't deal with it. But without a doubt, like, there's nothing they're going to be able to do here, because the way that this deck is built is that you run like 3 to 4 genies, which are uninkable, and you're going to have to play them, right? And so you're going to end up bouncing my cards back, and you know, my cards are damaged, or my cards have advantage when they're bounced back. Like Aladdin gets resummoned, takes away a lore, a Maleficent draws a card. Like, unless you Aladdin my big body, even if you do, like Aladdin my Ursula, sure, I'll just resummon it, you lose a lore, and I'll draw a card, right? Like, that's why this deck can play so well into these the deck that normally would counter the purple red control, right? I've said this in my my match video review with the Emerald. So you can see here we sing the friends on the other side, get another friends on the other side with the Aladdin, and at this point I'm going to use Murafiki to damage the Cusco, and then Maleficent to take it out so that Maleficent gets banished, which it would anyways. And the Allura is tied here. I'm thinking about if I do want to ink the friends on the other side, and I opt not to. I'm like, nah, let me just quest with the Rafiki and pass, because there's no way the opponent is crashing their Cusco. They're definitely going to quest with it, and they're not inking cards. Probably because honestly they have some uninkables, but they're going to be on 5 ink, and the mother knows best, which is crazy to me. The Aladdin. Why do they do this? Because I'm pretty sure they're afraid of the big shifted 7 Aladdin, or shift for 5 Aladdin, and sure enough we get both those cards on the reveal, and we opt to take, I think, Aladdin there. So we're going to crash the 2 Rafikis, which is totally fine. I mean, I would like to keep 1 around for the Dr. Facilier, but it is what it is. We're going to hard play the friends on the other side after we play the Aladdin, and look at the control. Look at it. The opponent matches me for ink on 6. We've got 4 cards in hand. They've got 2 cards total. Now look at the control, guys. How are we losing? How are we losing this match? There's no way we lose this match. I do make a misplay and I almost throw, but there's still no way we lose. If anything, I did it for science. I threw to show you can still misplay and still win. So you can see here, the opponent is forced to play genies now. They're uninkable. You have to bounce my Aladdin, and I'm just going to keep taking lore off you. Now, this deck usually doesn't care about that, because they just lore for so much that even if you minus 1 or 2 lore, it's not a big deal. But doing it over and over again is important. So mistake number 1, we don't quest with the Aladdin before be preparing. So sure, make a misplay there. And did I make the other misplay yet? I make a misplay where... or maybe it's here I make it. Let's see. Okay, or the next turn. So the opponent ends up committing their whole hand to the board at this point. We draw friends on the other side thanks to Ursula's Cauldron, and I don't think we opt to ink anything there, but we just pass on the 3 drops, and the opponent top decks Cat, which is pretty good, and they're not going to quest because they fear that shift Aladdin, right? The big Aladdin. So again, we look, and I'm like, perfect, Dr. Facilier, and I make a huge misplay here. I'm like, oh my god, I meant to sing the song with the Maleficent, right? And so I waste 3 ink in order to play that song, and now because of that I can't drop the Ursula or the Dr. Facilier or the shift Aladdin. And so I'm just like, okay, huge misplay there. So I have to drop the Ursula instead, which will give me the ability to tap the opponent's cards anyways, or exert them, so I can go in with the shifted Aladdin, right? And so at this point the opponent is just questing with everything, but I still have total control of the match. I'm going to go ahead and Ursula's Cauldron, opt to keep Ursula so that I can probably ink this Ursula, and now have 9 ink here. And I should have shifted, or actually no, maybe I shouldn't have shifted, because the opponent isn't threatening game here, even though they're on 13 lore. I'd rather just get rid of the Cat with the Dragonfire, and you can see the implication of not singing the song, because by not getting a big body out on board first, like I'm on 4 ink right now, I could have shifted the Aladdin if I had 5 ink, or shifted it last turn, and like I would have been in total control, right? The opponent top decks Cusco, and I'm like, oh, this actually, I could actually lose this now. But yeah, they're basically forced to take out the Elsa because it will tap the Cusco. And then the Ursula's Cauldron is just insane here, right? So we're just gonna quest with both, not even play the shift Aladdin, and I think we drop, yeah, Dr. Facilier here, because I'm like, this is the counter. This is another counter to this deck and the Cusco, because yes, your Cusco will quest for 3, that's fine, but when I take it out, the monsters that get banished in the challenge, which are both cards that have effects when they're summoned, the Aladdin and the Maleficent, I'll get them back to hand with Dr. Facilier, and I can play them again and just recur infinite advantage. right? And so that's exactly what you're going to see me do. Take out the Cusco, get these cards back to my hand, and even though the opponent's on 16 lore, with 9 ink, I'm going to ink one of the 2 Maleficents that I have, drop the Ursula for 7, lose a lore and draw a card, draw a Dragonfire, so that takes care of, you know, because I knew that I was going to draw that off of the Ursula's Cauldron, so even if you top deck something to play, I will Dragonfire it. You have a 1 questing LeFou on board, like, you have no chance, and the opponent ends up just scooping it up there. If you like this video, again, the decklist video will be coming afterwards. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, Quantum is out.